in the world of crypto, we hear a lot about decentralization and community power. It sounds great, right? But what happens when that dream shatters, seemingly overnight? Well, today we're diving into the story of the KOGE Token, a project that was built on that exact promise and ended in a pretty spectacular collapse. Let's get into it. So just imagine waking up and seeing this number. On June 16th, 2025, anyone holding the KOGE token saw their investment get slashed by more than half, a 58% drop, in just one day. The entire community was in shock, and you can bet everyone was asking the exact same thing. Right? How does something that's supposed to be built by the community, for the community, just fall apart like that? That's the big mystery we're going to unpack. And trust me, the answer tells us a whole lot about the promises and the hidden dangers of the crypto world. Okay, so to really understand the collapse, we first have to get the blueprint. We need to know what KGOS was even supposed to be. What was the vision that got so many people excited in the first place? So at its heart, KOGE is basically the governance token for a group called the BNB48 Club. Now, this isn't some club with a CEO sitting in a corner office. Nope. It's a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that lives inside the huge Binance ecosystem. But what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, think of a DAO like a company that literally runs itself. All the rules are just lines of code, totally transparent for everyone to see. And the members, in this case, the people holding KOGE tokens, they're the ones who vote on everything. There's no single boss calling the shots. It's supposed to be power to the people. At least, that was the ideal. And that ideal? It came with a really powerful promise. See, KOGE wasn't just another coin to speculate on. It was designed to have actual jobs to do, giving it real purpose and, in theory, a much more stable value. The whole thing was built on this three-pillar design. First, governance. If you have tokens, you have a vote. Simple. Second, a deflationary model. The DAO would use its revenue to buy back its own tokens and then just destroy them. This makes the remaining ones more rare and hopefully more valuable. And third, real utility. You could use it for crowdfunding, dApps, payments, the whole shebang. Now, this number is so important to the whole plan. A fixed total supply of just under 3.4 million tokens. And remember, the system was designed to shrink that number over time. So on paper, the value should have only gone one way, up. It was a solid plan. So what on earth went wrong? And this, right here, is where the blueprint slammed into reality. That promise of stability and community control was about to get stress tested by a sudden, violent cascade of events that just unraveled everything in a matter of days. You can really see the collapse happen in 3 acts. First, on June 16th, the liquidity crisis hits. Then, just 2 days later, the panic spills over to a connected platform, Binance Alpha, and triggers a mass exodus of users. By the beginning of July, the project was in full-on damage control and had to start cutting back on services. It was like watching dominoes fall in real time. This quote right here reveals a really critical weakness in the whole setup. KOGE's fate was tied to another token, ZKJ. So when one started to tank, it basically acted like an anchor and dragged the other one down with it. This connection just amplified the shock, turning what could have been a bad day into an absolute catastrophe. All right, so let's put some hard numbers on this collapse. This wasn't just a chart going down. It was a systemic failure with real, measurable consequences that we can actually look at. Okay, get this. This is where it all kicked off. Over $8 million in liquidity was pulled out. By just 3 wallets, that's it. 3 accounts had enough power to start a system-wide panic. It just goes to show you that even in a so-called decentralized system, a few big players can still hold way too many cards. And here's the ripple effect. This chart shows you what happened to user activity on that related platform, Binance Alpha, before and after the crash. It just fell off a cliff. Trust evaporated basically overnight, and people ran for the hills. To put an even finer point on it, 40,000 users. That's how many people left Binance Alpha in just 3 days. This wasn't a slow leak, it was a stampede for the exits. It really shows you just how fragile and interconnected these ecosystems can be. So, with the system in full-blown crisis mode, the developers had to make some pretty tough choices. They ended up cutting a key feature, a service that let you make gas-free transactions if you had enough SOL points, which were kind of like loyalty rewards. They did keep the service for stablecoin transfers, but it was a clear signal that the project was having to scale back its ambitions big time. So, After the collapse, after the damage control, where does that leave KOGE today? Well, the project is now caught in this really powerful tension between its past failures and what it's trying to do to build a future. And here's the core dilemma, right? On one hand, you have the bearish case. The crisis exposed some deep, deep flaws. Fragile liquidity, systemic risks you just can't ignore. On the other hand, you could look at it more neutrally and say, hey, these service adjustments are just smart, practical moves to streamline things. But really, all of this boils down to one huge, fundamental question. Can you actually rebuild trust once it's been so completely shattered? And that's really the question we're left with, isn't it? Are these smart, strategic fixes enough to make people forget what happened? Or will the ghost of that collapse, that lingering risk that it could all happen again, be the thing that defines the story of KOGE forever? Honestly, the answer to that is going to be a lesson for the entire crypto space.